Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Reaction. This is Why Didn't Alexander the Great Conquer Rome? Short animated documentary, version History Matters. Yes, it's been a while since I did a History Matters reaction. It's about Rome. And yet, this is a good question, isn't it? Because I'm guessing this is like what, 400 BC around that time? Alexander the Great did his conquering. So, Rome was in like early Republic days, right? Rome was still a thing. So, Roman Republic was, I guess, going on, right? I don't know. I guess Caesar is still few century away, like 2 or so century away, I'm guessing. So why didn't Alexander the Great conquer Rome? I mean, that is interesting, right? Because he just headed east. That's it, right? I guess he didn't thought about going. Once he started head east because of his reasoning, obviously, he didn't stop going east. That's I think how his conquering went, right? I don't think he really thought about going south or something. Around Rome or something. I don't know. But yeah, it would have been interesting if Alexander did conquer Rome. Would Rome be even a thing after that, right? Would Rome have picked up after Alexander the Great died? I think Roman Republic was established enough by this point that if Alexander the Great did conquer it and then died, I think fragment of that would made Rome, I guess, rise up, maybe a bit stronger. Pushback would have been much stronger, and Roman Republic would have tried to take over a lot of areas that Alexander the Great did conquer. So I think Rome would have been a bit more overpowered. I don't know. But it's going to be interesting. Let's do this one. History Matters. I like topics like this, which is like history, covered around the Roman times and things like that. Right? This is very interesting history because this is so far back that sometimes, it's mythology and history kind of like merges sometimes. So it's really interesting to see around Roman time what is happening around that time. So let's watch it.
Alexander the Great is most famous for his conquests, and also naming cities after himself. But a common question surrounding his empire building is why did he go east and never consider going west and say conquering Rome? So to begin, we have to look at Greece in the 4th century BC, which at this point was a mess of cities.
Wait a minute, it would be west, not south. Yeah, west makes sense.
Its petty kingdoms and shifting alliances. To the north sat the kingdom of Macedon, which was ruled by Philip II. Philip had expanded his kingdom to the south, which was seen as a threat by Athens. The Athenians built an alliance to check Philip's growing power, and before long, war. Long story short, Macedonia won and subjugated the rest of Greece. Except for Sparta, that is, which was just there being difficult. Philip's next move was to get revenge on Persia for its previous expedition into Greece.
Yeah, I think they just went to Sparta, saw all the oiled up abs and men just like flexing. It's like, yeah, I think for now, let's just leave it.
And so he and his new allies started to prepare. Unfortunately for Philippe, before this could happen, it was time to get stabbed to death. Alexander III succeeded him and, like his father, wanted to expand his kingdom, but going west to Rome wasn't really an option at this point. The first reason was that his father had promised to attack Persia, which was a unifying force in Greece. And if Alexander wanted to keep them on board, it was important to keep this promise. Furthermore, Alexander likely knew very little, if anything, about Rome at this point. It wasn't a regional power and only held this much territory, and neither it nor its neighbours were really worth an expedition. And with that, Alexander was off to attack Persia, which he did in 334 BC. The Macedonians did well, and Alexander defeated the Persian Shah Darius and took all of this land, thereby becoming Alexander the OK. He then moved south into Egypt, which he soon conquered, and this allowed him to found the city of Alexandria and also proclaim himself pharaoh. Alexander the Pretty Good then advanced towards the
I knew that kind of joke was he's gonna just raise the okay to pretty good, and eventually, okay, fine, he's great. Alright, Alexander the Great.
Capital and defeated Darius again before taking it. Darius fled but was soon murdered by his own men, and Alexander took the title of King of Persia as well, thereby becoming Alexander the Notable. So with Persia defeated, surely Alexander was free to return to Macedon and turn his attention elsewhere. Well, no. Even with Darius gone, Alexander still had to pacify the rest of Persia. Now, he'd previously written of his intent to conquer places like Carthage, and it's likely that he wouldn't have shied away from taking whatever else was in his way. But again, there's no evidence he knew anything of Rome. In fact, the Greeks had minimal contact with Rome and wouldn't have cared much until Rome's conquest of these Greek cities in the south of Italy, which happened about 50 years after Alexander died. So anyway, Alexander wasn't able to return to Macedon because one of Darius's generals had declared himself king, and Alexander couldn't tolerate a rival. Alexander spent the next 6 years putting down revolts across Persia, and after his realm was mostly secure, he went westward to Babylon. It was here that he decided he was going to conquer the afterlife, which meant going westward was impossible and Rome was safe in its cradle. I hope you enjoyed this episode with the special...
Well, hold up there. There is a... Okay, if he just like fought Persia alone and did things around Persia, how did he went all the way to India then? Isn't that a thing? Like he went all the way to India, but after Indus River, his man like, okay, enough, let's just go back. I'm not doing this. So they had to return back. This video makes me think that he only went, like, he just did the Persian thing. There was like a lot of things were happening there, like some other people rising up, so he has to like squash all these rivalries and things. If that was the case, how did he go beyond Persia to all the way to India? Didn't his intent was to like even conquer India as well? But his man said, no, we're not doing this. I don't know, this is confusing. Wait a minute, let me Google that. I guess both is kind of true. He did try to like, cause all the, Persian revolts and things, Achaemenid Empire, whatever it was called, in the, far east of it. And after, causing that, India was just there. So, his goals, try to expand India, but like the story goes, like people, his own man is like, okay, you know what, we're not doing that. That's like too much, right? Crossing the Indus River, war elephants and all that shit. That's just, okay. We've been here too much. So I guess then he started to go back home, and during that time he died or something, right? Basically, no time after that he just died. So if he had gone back, right, and if he didn't die, his goal was to go after Carthage. That would have been interesting, right? I mean, if he did go after I think the timeline was like too broad. Like how long he would have lived anyway, right? What was he, like 50 or 60 or something when he died, right? Something like that. I think, it must have been like 50 or 60 when he died, right? So if he did go after Carthage, let's just say it would have been like something like 5-10 year campaign. I guess he could have, like, there are older generals, he could have done that. But after that, there was Rome, right? And Rome wasn't particularly strong around this time. I'm pretty sure of that, right? Rome was doing okay. It's not like Rome was that weak. Around this time, Rome was doing like much stronger things. If around 200 BC something, right? 290, 280. They made these iconic roads and things like landmarks. But that would have been like 40, 50 years from this point, I'm guessing. But still, I think Rome was doing fine enough. But I don't think, were they doing strong enough at the time where they would have like fought back, right? First Punic War happens 50, 60 years from here, right? And around that time, even Carthaginians were like, okay, Romans are kind of strong, man-to-man battle. So I don't know, it would have been something. But I think Alexander probably would have conquered Rome because he was Alexander, right? A key figure, strong figure like that does make a difference. So maybe he would have conquered it. Maybe he would have like face really resistance, or who knows, like Rome would have done some Rome shit and assassinate Alexander or something. That would have been really interesting, because if that had happened, would we see Alexander the Great as the great? Only reason he's great because he did all this conquering and by the end of it he died, right? If he did went to Rome, something happened, he got assassinated or something, I mean, I guess we would still see him as the great, but I guess he would have been tainted somewhat, the whole memory of it. I don't know. But isn't it insane? Like, it's like just 2-3 centuries of a difference between Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. What are the three biggest war generals you can think of? Is Napoleon, Alexander the Great, and Caesar. Some think Caesar was like more of a brilliant tactician amongst the three, because a lot of things he pioneered himself, right? Like cutting off supply of cities so they starve or something. I'm pretty sure that Alexander, he probably didn't come up with it, but he popularized it, right? But it's really interesting, like it's just 2-3 centuries. If they were like kind of close, how would have the battle gone, right? Alexander the Great versus Caesar. Yeah. Right, well, that was Why Didn't Alexander the Great Conquer Rome by Channel History Matters. If you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.